Today I want to talk about the most important thing to do in this game, and that is acquiring legendary items, getting your build set up with those items, as well as actually getting the better stats on these legendary items. What we're looking for is what we consider a triple, and I'll go ahead and move my camera over here and talk about the triple stats. You can see here we have a triple stat here. I don't actually think I have a triple piece of gear here, but when we're talking about triple, we mean triple stats and triple magic additional stats or attributes, whatever you want to call these. For example, primary attack damage increased by 4.5%, critical hit damage increased by 4.5%, and if you have a triple, it'll be additional one right here. So that's what we're looking for, and it's almost always going to be necessary as we increase these Paragon levels. So we're going to talk about the best ways to actually acquire these legendary items in a top 5 list. Let's jump into it. So before we jump into the top 5 list, I want to mention some honorable mentions and also talk a little bit about legendary items. So it seems like legendary items have a soft cap at 6 per day. After you get the initial 6, you're going to drop the drop rate significantly down to where it's very rare to get a legendary item. Honestly, I average like 1 per 2 to 3 hours. So at the end of the day, I'm usually at like 10 or so legendary items, which is pretty rare. Now, with all that being said, let's talk about some of the one-time offers and some methods that I think are subpar but can be used if you really want some legendary items. First off is going to be the first kill of the day. After 7 days, you're going to pick up that one. The second method is going to be the battle pass here at level 10. If we just scroll all the way over back to level 10 here, you'll see the mystery legendary offhand. That will be a one-time reward as well, whether you're free to play or pay to play. Then there's going to be one other option for you to pick up a legendary item, and that is going to be this shop right over here that I don't necessarily recommend you pick up all the time.
You're in the right
because it's
place.
weekly purchase limit and the hilts are expensive. So I definitely recommend that you go ahead and avoid this after maybe the very early part of the game, and make sure you're focusing on the legendary crests and the rare crest to pick up, because this is expensive to pick up this legendary item. But I wanted to mention it just in case someone out there wanted to do it. That being said, let's jump into number 5. So coming in at number 5 is going to be a little bit of open world content, not all of it, but specifically bounties and shadow contracts. Now you're going to have 2 opportunities to do 4 set of 4 bounties per day, and that is going to be a total of 8 bounties. When you complete your bounties, you're going to be able to claim the rewards and get a large bonus of equipment as well as gold. Now, there is a chance that legendary items will drop from these, as well as drop from the shadow contracts. I do think that you should be doing your shadow contract every day if you are in the shadow clan, and you should be doing your bounties every day, specifically in a group. Now, if you're solo, these methods sort of drop off quite hard, but if you're in a group, your people could actually be on separate sides of the map and complete the bounty at the same time. This will allow you to finish off the bounties very quickly and just get all that juicy loot afterwards. And as you saw from the 2 clips there, this one as well as the previous one, you could see that I'm actually gaining a ton of loot at the end of claiming all of those rewards. Let's jump into method number 4. All right, so method number 4 is going to be Elder Rifts. Now, I will say that the value in terms of running Elder Rifts is extremely reduced if you do not have crests to run. So I would say that this method only remains number 4 if you have rare or legendary crests, because you're not just going to be getting the legendary items or the chance at decent loot drops at the end of the day. You're also going to be getting all the other rewards. So I would say that if you only have just the Elder Rift to run, then go ahead and just run something else up higher on the list, because you'll get more value in terms of everything that you're gaining per minute. Now, these Elder Rifts are quite fast. I believe I ran this one about 2 minutes, maybe a little slower. I'm not quite sure. I wasn't focusing as hard as I could, but the main value of this is killing off the blue units and the yellow units and killing off the boss quickly and getting those loot drops. And you can see it's actually a 2-minute run exactly, and those are going to be pretty solid for you to run repeatedly. Let's jump into method number 3. So this method comes in at number 3, not due to its extremely high legendary chance to get those awesome legendary items, but really just because of how much value you actually get from running every other method on this list. And what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the rarities and antiquities here. You're actually going to find this shop right over here in the corner of West March, and you're going to be able to pick up all the mystery weapons at a daily purchase of 25 per day. Now, I don't recommend you purchase 25 per day, not even close. The maximum you should be purchasing is 10 per day of whatever piece you actually want to upgrade. And I don't recommend you use all your gold. I'd recommend you keeping a large stockpile of gold as reserves just in case something else comes up. Now, what would I purchase in here? Well, I would purchase whatever item you have that is really desperately in need of an upgrade. So I'll go ahead and just run a few here for you. You can see here my shield is at triple stat, my helmet's at triple stat, my weapon's at double stat, and then these pieces are also all at double stat. So the best chance of me getting an upgrade in terms of a legendary item is one of my armor pieces right here. So let's go back into the Rarities Antiquities shop. And let's pick up some mystery primary armor. I'll go ahead and buy 10 here. You can see I'm getting a few rares, which is also quite solid. I can salvage those for enchanted dust, a common there, and I didn't actually get a legendary item at all. And that is generally what's going to happen for you. But the thing with this method is that whatever method you're doing on this list, you'll be able to run that method as well, which is why it's at a number 3. Let's jump into number 2 and talk about some heavy hitters here. So at number 2, we actually have the Library of Zoltan. Cool. Now, this one has been beaten a lot by some content creators out there. There is so many people in this area, which is why I have it at number 2. Not only that, but I think the number 1 method just takes the cake in terms of value for actual items got in terms of getting upgrades. So what are we doing in this method? We're going to be running to the Library of Zoltan Cool, and there's some definitely good spots to grind. There's really 2 main ones. It's going to be the hidden alcove on the far right side, as you can see from the minimap up on the top right hand corner here. And you're just going to be running around the room, killing off the monsters and acquiring the loot. Now, I highly recommend that you do this in a party of 4. If you're doing this solo, the value is going to go way down because you're not going to spawn as many events. You're not going to spawn as many elites and legendary units. And overall, you're just going to get not as much experience and loot. So if you're running solo, this method, in my opinion, drops a little bit farther down, but definitely a very solid method. And the main value for this method is not just the loot that you're obtaining from the monsters that you're killing, but actually the bestiary. And you'll see here, I'm going to teleport back to the home base here once I stop myself from getting interrupted. And we're actually going to turn in the monstrous essence that we acquire. It's very important that you're managing what your monstrous essence is at, because if you cap out of it, the monsters will not drop anymore. And that means that you're losing out on experience, you're losing out on loot, and you're losing out on gold. Now you'll see here, I'm going to turn in my bestiary here, but I'm not going to get too much loot in this one because I got a little unlucky. But I will actually go ahead and post a screenshot of someone else in the clan who turned in their bestiary today and actually got a triple legendary drop from this thing. So this thing can be very valuable for you. It just depends on how many times you actually run it, because the more you run it, the more chances you'll get for a legendary drop. That all being said, let's jump to our number 1 method for getting gear improvements, and specifically legendary items. So our number 1 method is going to be running dungeons in a group of 4. Now, I know some of you may disagree with this out there, but this is just going to be the best way to get legendary item upgrades and set item upgrades. So this is where the value of getting dungeon runs comes into play. So not only are you going to be able to get those legendary item triple stats, but you'll also be able to get those set item triple stats. And that value just supersedes anything in terms of actually getting item upgrades. Now, the XP from this is going to be significantly reduced from the library runs. And that honestly is probably one of the most important things to do. But if you're beginning out and you're early on in your Paragon levels, or you're just not sitting there grinding experience because you actually need some of those triple stats, or maybe you just have lower level legendary items that you got from being level 50 or early on in your Paragon levels, go ahead, grind some dungeons out. Now, I highly recommend that one of the best ones to actually get loot from is actually the Forgotten Tower with the Countess. But there's also a few other good ones like the Temple of Namari. Generally, I recommend running whatever the upgraded battle pass one is. So in the game, when you go ahead and check out the battle pass, you'll see little up arrows for the set item increased drops. And I'll go ahead and show you that right after this clip here. After you kill the boss, you'll get a bunch of items, and you have a very solid chance of getting legendary items. Now, if we just jump over back to Diablo Immortal here, in the codex, you'll see that whatever area has an increased arrow here will give you bonus set and legendary drops. This will increase your chance of getting those extra statted items. So Cavern and Echoes and Temple of Namari here are going to be the best options for getting those items. So definitely recommend running those. That all being said, hopefully that gives you an idea on the best ways to obtain legendary items. There pretty much is every way in this video. There's obviously some random open world grinding that you can do with those events out in the open world, which are solid, but I don't think they're very repeatable enough to actually count on them. Like they're sometimes they're every day or every other day, which makes it very, very rare. But overall, the open world is pretty solid and could definitely give you some good legendary items. But I highly recommend you stick to the top 2 methods. Well, I guess the top 3 methods, because the third method can be also done while doing the second and first methods. So those are my opinions on legendary item grinding and set item grinding and getting gear upgrades. Hopefully that helped you, and I'll see you for the next one.